We had Steve-O on the podcast a few months ago, and one of the videos we brought up to him was he went on your show and had a bit of a meltdown, so to speak. And he was telling us his perspective of what happened that day. And I'm curious, from your perspective, what was that like for you?
I didn't have real strong thoughts about it. We provided alcohol for him. He indulged in the alcohol and then got out there and sort of probably did his version of Steve-O and what he thought Steve-O should be doing back then. And then I didn't want him to hurt his foot because he was hitting it on a glass coffee table. I didn't want him to injure himself. I also didn't want them to stop filming because I didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't have another guest. You know, I thought it would be kind of interesting to capture this, and so I didn't have big thoughts about it one way or the other. I said when the show was over, the executive from Comedy Central sort of rushed over to me. She was a young woman, and she came to me and she said, "Well, we can't air this. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna run a rerun or tape a new show?" Or she said, "But we can't air this." And I just said, "Why can't we air this?" And she went, "This is a disaster." And I said, 10 years from now, the only thing people will remember from this show is this episode where Steve-O put his foot through the glass table. And I think I was right.
You were 100% right.
So I was like, yeah, this will be the only memory of this show is going to be this episode, and you don't want to air this episode? But I never felt threatened.
Did you ever feel bad about highlighting Steve-O in this way? Because sometimes we'll have a guest come on and say something, and then Jack and I afterwards are like, you know what? We know if we air this, it's going to get a lot of attention, but we worry it might hurt the guest.
I was sort of in my office doing other things, and the producer was like, it'd be fun, you know, make sure there's a big bottle of vodka in Steve's dressing room. So maybe he'll do something like crazy, you know, but I was sort of in my office, not, you know, it wasn't my idea. It wasn't like, it was more of a production decision. We're like, we'll do this and that'll be funny. Which is the case oftentimes, you know, when things go wrong or things go whatever on a show, you think it's like the host planned it out, but the host really had little to do with it. The host is on stage when it happens, but whatever the joke was or whatever the thing or the event was, that's some segment producer deciding this would be funny. Now, I knew about it. They were like, we put a bottle in Steve's. Well, by the way, I had a bottle of booze in my dressing room too, but I didn't have to drink it, you know, but I think they were like, he's gonna drink and then he's gonna come out and then hijinks will ensue. Like maybe it'll be crazy, maybe it'll be funny, maybe he'll show his ass or something. Like that was just, and it was also kind of the older school of late night back then. Like you do the Tonight Show when Leno would host, there was a booze cart right outside your dressing room. Like they'd have a booze cart, you know, and then you'd come there at like 4 PM and be like, "Can we get you a cocktail?" And they're mainly just trying to take the edge off, you know, and loosen people up a little bit. But booze was kind of a thing, you know, on late night. So like, I wouldn't have a drink because I wasn't nervous if I do the Tonight Show, and I didn't want to be a little off, you know. But if you were like a young starlet and you're a little nervous, then maybe have a drink.
Was the table really a rental?
Yeah, everything is a rental. Everything.
I thought you would own it. Why would you rent the table? It seems like a $100 table.
I did a movie and they had coffee mugs and there were rentals, and they just rent everything. They just go to a prop house and they rent it, and whatever you see on that set is rented.
It was crazy to me. Even when I got married, the wedding planner was saying, "Oh, you could rent the cups or the plates." And I'm looking at the rental fees, and I said, "Well, I could buy that for less than it would cost to rent it. So we're just going to buy these things and just give them away. It's cheaper to do that."
Well, I would always say that too. Like, we get to like season 4 of the Man Show, and there'd be like a foosball table like over there, and we were like wrapping up, and I was like, who's taking the foosball table home now that we're done? You know, and they'd go, "Oh, that's a rental." I'd be like, "We rented a foosball table for 4 years?" Yeah. It's like, we probably paid $26,000 for a $400 foosball table, but it's what they do.
It's got to be something for write-offs, for tax purposes. You know, they write off 100%.
Someone's
of the cost
making
of
a lot
lease.
of money on the back end. That's right.
I'm sure it's a scam, but they rent. That's the answer.
All right, last question. If you were to die tomorrow, how would you like to be remembered?
I think I'd like to be remembered as someone who was accurate, whether it was comedy or COVID or social thoughts or whatever. I'd go with an accurate person who wasn't, whose thoughts weren't sort of co-opted by whichever way the wind was blowing or whatever was a popular opinion. I mean, I definitely would like funny, but I'll take funny and accurate.